I was browsing eBay for some vintage knitting patterns and vintage yarn when I came across a listing for this. This is an unfinished sweater project, and I thought it would be interesting to take a look at what state it's in and see if maybe we can finish it ourselves. First things first, I see that we have a pattern page, which is great, so we know what kind of pattern we're aiming for. It's pretty faded, but it's from the company Unger. The second bit is we've got lots and lots of individual pieces here. Oh, and some of the yarn that was used. So we actually have the band of the yarn that was used, so we know exactly what yarn was used. So my initial reaction to this is they stored it very, very well. All the pieces are together. The leftover yarn is there with the band of the yarn on it, so we know what it is, and the pattern that was being worked from. Did they want to come back to this at some point, and why this was left in an unfinished state? I'm gonna lay out all the different pattern pieces that we have that have been completed and see which ones are missing and what we might have to do to finish off this sweater. The pattern is quite wrinkled at this point, but taking a look at it, there are 6 pieces that we need. The lower back, the lower front, the back yoke, front yoke, and 2 sleeves. There are 6 pattern pieces here, although they're a little hard for me to distinguish, but there are 6 of them. There are measurements listed for each pattern piece and what size it's supposed to be, so I'm gonna go measure them and label what piece is which piece. Based on reading the pattern and taking some measurements, I have determined what each of these 6 pieces are, which will help me put it together. Also, since I've laid these out, Nutella has not gotten off them. I think she very much likes them. Nutters, are you enjoying your new little sleeping pad? I'm sorry, it's gonna turn into a sweater very soon. So now that we know that we actually have all the pieces completed, it's just the finishing. So we have from the cuffs downwards that wasn't finished as part of this pattern. And this kind of leads me to an interesting idea. I have 2 theories at this point as to why this pattern was put away and not worked on anymore. Reading the pattern, it is clear that from the cuffs onwards, we switch from crocheting only to knitting. So as a theory, there are many things in life that happen that mean that we don't necessarily finish a project as we're working on it, but one of the theories is that the person who bought these and bought the instructions didn't realize that the finishing required knitting. The cuffs and collar, both done in knitting, and up until here it was all crocheting, and I mean their crochet work is amazing. It's beautiful. The other theory that I have is, looking at the amount of yarn that I have left, I am not sure that this is going to be enough to do both the cuffs and the collar at the neckline. The good thing is that Lion brand fisherman's wool is still a wool that's produced today. The color might not be a 100% match, so I might run to the store and see if I can get a match. However, I think I might try to make the cuffs, because at least I think I could get the ribbing for the cuffs out of this, and the neckline and the bottom border and all those things might have to be something that we figure out based on yarns that we can find today. Before we go on to finishing the cuffs and putting this sweater together though, I wanted to go a little bit into the background of the company that made the pattern for this sweater, for this crocheted sweater. So let me grab some materials that I have and we'll chat about that really briefly. So first, let's take a look at the company that made this sweater pattern. So this is called the Popcorn Ridge Pullover. It has the number 1 on it, and it's from the company Unger, or Unga. I have the urge to pronounce it like that in German. I tried looking for this one online and I could not find the original pattern online anywhere. So I have scanned this in for my own safekeeping and record keeping. I don't plan on losing it, but you never know. And because it doesn't exist anywhere else, I wanted to make sure I had a backup copy of it. I do own some original vintage pattern books by Unger. They have some really interesting designs in there, some beautiful coats and things. This is not the only one that I have, it's just the one I was able to grab the quickest. I find that, at least online when I look, or in my own collection that I've created, around the 60s is when they're most popular and most prolific. The 80s and 90s definitely also have patterns from them, but they kind of fall off the face of the earth, to be honest, after the 90s. I don't see them anymore. I tried to look up records of the company's history. I found some trademarks that they did for their roly-poly yarn or roly sport yarn, which is the yarn that was originally recommended to knit with this, not the Lion brand that the person who did this first used. But I have very little information. They did have an office in New York City at 235th, which is now a rooftop bar. So that's kind of fun, but they don't exist anymore. And it's hard, at least I was having a hard time finding any kind of information or history on that company. So if you know more, please do let me know, because I think it would be interesting to know more about their history, especially since I have not just this one pattern, but I have a few pattern books from them. Now, as for the yarn that this maker used, like we said before, it is Lion brand fisherman's wool. This fisherman's wool has been in production for a while. I couldn't find out exactly how long, but the ones that I could find online did not have the same type of cover, so I'm wondering if it was slightly before then. The ones online seem to be around the 80s and 90s, but it's all a guess based on the style. I'm not 100% sure. However, Lion Brand Yarn Company is the oldest still operating yarn company in the United States. They've been around since 1878 and it's still a family-owned business. I think it's currently under like the leadership of the 5th generation. It was originally purchased at Walmart for $1.58, if that helps in placing the time frame of this wool at all. I feel like in the more recent past, the times that I bought Lion brand yarn have been for like my quick makes or when I was very early on in some new skills and I wasn't really looking to buy the fanciest of yarns. It's still nice yarn, it's just well priced, so I don't feel quite as bad, you know, buying a blanket's worth of the yarn because it's a lot more affordable than some other options that are out there. It also means that we are lucky because Lion brand fisherman's wool is still made and this colorway is still made, like I said before. So if we run out while we're trying to finish up this, we can go to the store and see how close modern fisherman's wool from Lion brand is to the one that I have here. I think we are going to work on the cuffs. And the instructions for the cuffs, you do a purl 3 knit 2 ribbing, either between 1.5 and 2.5 inches. I usually like pretty long cuffs, but I'll have to see how long these sleeves are. I have got long arms, so my sweaters tend to need extra length in the sleeves. Let's find the appropriate size needle and finish up this sweater. I've got my pattern, some 375 knitting needles, which are slightly larger than the ones given in the pattern because I can see in the handwriting that the person used 2 sizes larger crochet hook than was recommended. What I'm noticing about this sleeve block, but if you look at the pattern picture, the front yoke has the pattern going this way, so you can see the stripes going across this way and it continues in that way down the sleeves. The way that these sleeves were constructed, however, if I have this on, it matches the body where the main pattern goes this way rather than this way. These sleeves are also very long. Based on everything I could find in the pattern, these are the sleeves and the other blocks are smaller. I mean, but they do go in the right direction, but then this doesn't fit. Hold on, let me show you. Here's kind of an illustration of what I think the pattern pieces are. You have the front yoke top, the front bottom, and then the sleeve. Although you can see not all the dimensions line up super well here. Like this is a little too short, that's a little too long. So let me flip these two and see if maybe I got that wrong. This makes a little bit more sense. I mean, this is a little wider than that, but now the pattern continuation is appropriate here. And this needs to be twice the width of this yoke because you have the front yoke and the back yoke that you sew too. So, all right, I did get those wrong. So this is the body and these are the sleeves. I'm glad I laid it out like this or else I would have definitely done this incorrectly. So let me move the labels around so I don't forget this. As I'm working on finishing up this project, this unfinished project from an unknown person, I just wanted to put the information out there for anyone else who is interested in stuff like this. There's a project called Loose Ends, and you can sign up both as someone who has something to finish and as someone who is willing to finish things for someone else. It, I think, is mainly started out of the want for someone's family member who passed away that was a knitter, but they themselves couldn't knit, and the family member left an unfinished project and they really wanted it finished. So now if you have a loved one who's passed on and they have unfinished work that you think would be really lovely to have finished, but you don't know how to do it yourself, you can list it on this project's website, or if you are someone who is willing to donate their time and can do these crafts, you can offer up your services on this website. Alright, so I have finished knitting the ribbing on the bottom of the sleeve, so the sleeve will look kind of like this when it's done. I hope it's long enough. I did make the sleeve as long as the longest suggestion, but I don't know. We'll see how it comes together. The other issue is that this is literally the only bit that's remaining from this bit of yarn, and then I just have this left. And I need to make other cuff ribbing, the ribbing on the bottom and the collar. I don't think this is enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this with me, I'm going to head to the store, and I'm going to see if I can find the match. So I just got out of the store and I think that is a really good match in terms of the yarn. I probably, if I were knitting like a big project, I wouldn't switch over immediately between the vintage one and the one that I just bought. But even in the natural light, I think you can see that it's very, very close. So making the matching collar, cuffs, and bottom ribbing will be more than okay, I think, to do in this new yarn. So let's get back to finishing making that sweater. We are on to more finishing steps. Oh no, I was about to explain this to you. Oh, I sewed two pieces on the wrong way around. Oh no, no, no. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to undo my work. But do you see this is wrong side, this is right side. So we'll undo this. I got the other one right though. Here's the front. And the next thing I was going to do was knit the bottom band of this. I think I'm going to still do that next because sometimes it can be a little demotivating to undo work you just did. The sleeves, I don't think I've shown you. I finished both. Both of these are still done with the yarn that came with this unfinished sweater. Here are what the cuffs look like, kind of scrunching together at the bottom of the sleeve there. So I undid my mistake. I sewed it back together the right way. We have the bottom ribbing on the back piece as well. I think I probably showed this to you before, the bottom ribbing on the front piece. So now all that's left is the assembly of all the pieces together and knitting on the collar. The instructions have you assemble it so that you sew up the one shoulder, the sides, and then you have to set in the sleeves. But because I've been unraveling sweaters, I have noticed that commercial sweaters put pieces together a little bit differently, and I think it's a bit easier. They sew the shoulders first, and then with the sleeves flat, you seam that on, and then you seam all the way from under one sleeve down the side of the sweater so that you're just doing one long seam there. But let's start by seaming up the shoulders, and before I start anything, let me just double check that I'm putting the right sides together. Brief update on our sweater. Thank you, Nutella. Very helpful. I have sewn together the sleeves, basically where Nutella is pointing with her paw, so I've sewn that together. So here's the front, there's the back, and now I have, did I say that I sewed together the sleeves? I meant the shoulders. Next, I'm going to sew the sleeves right here onto the shoulder portion. So this means that I am avoiding having to set in sleeves because I'm just sewing it on a straight line. And Nutella is being very helpful. Thank you. Okay, so let's sew the sleeves on. The sleeves are now attached at both ends, and what we're going to do is we're going to sew up on the sides here. So let me fold this over and show you exactly how I'm going to sew it up. I'm sewing everything together, right sides together, so inside out, so you won't see the final sweater until it's fully finished. But basically now I'm going to sew along this seam
from the sleeve down to the underarm. So that's going to be the side to the sleeve, and that'll just be one long seam that I can sew up, one on each side, and then the last thing is the collar. This sweater is nearly done. All I have to do is weave in some ends. And by the way, if you've enjoyed watching me do some of this fiber crafting, feel free to subscribe. I love historical and vintage fiber crafts. Knitting is my favorite, but I also do love to crochet, tat, sew, weave, spin, all that kind of stuff. So feel free to subscribe if that is something that you want to see more of. Okay, let me finish this up and then I will show you the final reveal of what this sweater looks like. So this sweater turned out way better than I was expecting. I was worried about how a few of the pieces were going to come together, and I didn't block it. The pattern specifically says not to block this, but because I think it's been in storage so long, I might run just like a little bit of a steamer across this. Some of the seams didn't match up 100%, so I had to ease some in. So I think around some of these seams, this sweater would do well with a little bit of steam blocking. It's substantial, like it's definitely got weight and heft to it, but not in an uncomfortable way, more like in a very like cozy and I feel soft and warm way. I was worried about the sleeve length, and I think I was right to be worried. The good thing is though, now that I know that I have a matching yarn, what I can always do is undo my cast off here and just knit it probably this much longer, or even double that so I can fold it over so it has some like thickness and heft to it so that it matches kind of the visual weight of this sleeve, if that makes sense. It also has gaping because just the weight of this sleeve is so much, and so yeah, I think honestly making it twice as long as the finished length would be perfect for me. Am I happy with it? Yes. It'll like that will probably be the final tweak, and I will wear the heck out of this sweater. The fun thing is I actually reached out to the seller on eBay where I originally got this sweater from and asked if they knew anything about the person who originally crocheted this sweater, and they answered me and said, yeah, actually it was me. I was the one who made it, and I ended up never finishing it. When I went to look back at it, it wasn't my size anymore, and that's why I passed it along. I asked if they remembered when they started this project or where they found the pattern. They said honestly it has been so long they have no memory of it, but are very happy it went to someone who can finish it and hopefully get some use out of it. So I am very happy for that. Thank you so much to the person who originally made this and gave it along. All I did to finish off this sweater was sew it together and add the knitted ribbing to all the pieces, and I was only able to do that because the original creator was so organized in the way that they stored this unfinished project. So thank you so much to them, and for you for joining me for this video. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more like this. Like I said before, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!